Now, as triathletes, we focus a lot on our need to run faster off the bike, but perhaps we should be rethinking this. After all, a lot of us run at some very impressive speeds during run workouts in training, but actually get nowhere near them come race day. Our legs are feeling far from fresh. In fact, they're feeling really quite fatigued coming off the bike. So today, I'm going to be exploring the need to run stronger off the bike. Right, well, to help me explore running stronger off the bike, I've enlisted the help of Nick Anderson, founder of Running With Us, and also a very experienced running coach for one of our channel partners, Polar. Now, Nick, thanks ever so much for joining us today. I know you work with loads of runners and triathletes out there, a whole array of abilities. What is the main difference you see between the two different athletes?
I think the differences are changing. They're becoming less obvious, if I'm honest. The triathlete is traditionally stronger from all three events and is able to do lots of aerobic work, and maybe the injuries are less. Runners, they hit the ground hard, and there has been this run mentality, but we are changing in the running world, and cross-training, aqua jogging, and we'll do some threshold running and then this top-end VO2 work because they're training the engine in a different way. Whereas a triathlete will, of course, get that stimulus within the swimming and the biking as well, and will then need to tune in with the running. And I think there's a danger that a triathlete can do junk running as well when they've actually got a lot of stimulus elsewhere from the swimming and cycling.
Okay, but how about this VO2 work? Because I know from experience, I used to do a lot of track work with my local running club. We'd run at silly speeds, and I'm not actually that sure how useful it was for me on race day.
Okay, so look, you go along on a Tuesday night to the club, you've got your Polar heart rate monitor on, and you're going to do 200s or 400s or maybe 800s, and it's really good, and you come off the track and you're exhausted, you're going to be sick, and great session, that must have been good for me. But you were training in the zone up here, probably in the VO2 area, above 85%, working without oxygen. Yet in the event you're training for, when you jump off the bike, you're going to be working with oxygen aerobically and probably somewhere in that 75 to 85% running economy threshold zone. So my argument is, why not get better at working at threshold, strengthen the stroke volume of the heart, use your heart rate monitor to get that absolutely right, and become more efficient and have better economy.
Okay, so it sounds like threshold is absolute key here. So could you explain very briefly what threshold pace or effort is to us?
Yeah, so threshold is the top end of your aerobic zone. If you say you're 0 to 100%, everything up to about 85% is working aerobically. 75 to 85%, the physiologists, all the data, the research tells us that is the area of threshold running economy work where we strengthen the volume of the heart, and that is what enables you to push hard for longer rather than just pushing very hard for a short period of time.
Okay, so threshold pace is probably likely what a lot of us are doing sprint distance and Olympic distance triathlon runs off the bike at. How about for those longer distance triathlons, half Ironmans and Ironman distance?
When you go into 70.3 and kind of Ironman distances, then really we're starting to look then at you running in the lower end of your threshold and probably around about 75%. But actually training at 75 to 85 will still give you the strength to hold the 75% for a longer period of time. So it's a magic zone, it works, but get off the bike in the longer events and run and work at the lower end of your running economy zone and learn to hold it.
Okay, well, it sounds very useful. So let's go and find out how you work out this magic zone. Okay, so how do we get to this threshold effort and the training zones from that?
Well, I'd argue the gold standard way is always to come to a lab, maybe at one of the universities near you. Here we are today at Bath University, and really within the lab you're probably going to spend just over £100, and there you'll go on a treadmill and they'll be able to just gradually ramp up the speed, ramp up the gradient over the test that you do, measure lactate, blood lactate versus your heart rate, where you'll be wearing a heart rate device, and at the end of it you'll get a report which will be your easy running, steady running, threshold running and above in terms of correct training zones. You know, you're spending £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 or more on a bike. I'd argue it's a really good investment to find out what your training zones are. Having said that, go out on the track, do 2 times 800, really hard, it's a horrible session. At the end of the second of the 800s, make sure you've recorded your heart rate or you've looked at it, And that will probably be pretty close to your maximum heart rate. Once you know your maximum heart rate, why not log back into your watch, maybe plug it back in, and at that point, you could override your training zones that you originally set, because now you've got your training zones based on your maximum heart rate that you've created. So on Polar Flow, you could change all of that and it would be wonderful. 220 minus your age, pretty vague. I don't think it really works.
Okay, so we've got our threshold effort, our data, our numbers, everything there. How do we now put this into our training and helping us run stronger off the bike?
Well, now you've got the information, I think it's really time to make this simple, make it easy. You're busy people, you're swimming, you're riding. Don't make this too time consuming. Maybe if you're going to go out and do a 45-minute run, a 60-minute run, it starts off with something like 3 by 5 minutes in that threshold zone. So warm up and then just pick it up for 5 minutes, 3 or 4 word answer pace in the zone that you know is the right zone for you. Hold it, and then jog for a couple of minutes and then back into 5 minutes, and maybe repeat that 3 times. Maybe if you're more experienced, it's 3 by 10 minutes. And you can be clever with this. If you're then training for, half Ironman 70.3 and longer, maybe you're going to include blocks of this threshold work even within your long run. So you might go out and do a 2-hour long run, and you might in the second hour of the 2-hour long run do something like 3 times 2 miles or 3 times 12 minutes or something at threshold, with the recoveries in between, because you're working on that running economy when you're tired as well.
Okay, and I assume it's really important that we're keeping track of that pace, our effort, our heart rates, whatever it is.
Yeah, so use the zones, use the training zones that you've now discovered for yourself or had researched for you, and be honest and be strict, and try and create graphs. When you look back at maybe your Polar Flow or the other data you're looking at, you don't want to see graphs where the Manhattans go up and then they go up again. You want them to go up and hold, and then come down on a recovery, go up and hold again. You need to be in a zone that you practice in training, but also practice now in your races, that you can hold. And if you feel good in the latter part of the run on race day, of course you can squeeze it and push it on. But if you go out too hard in training or on event day, you're going to suffer, you're going to build too much lactate, you're going to burn fuel too quickly, and you start to work outside of that aerobic controlled zone, and it is the pain locker then, and you just drag yourself home rather than being stronger as you go on.
Right, well, thanks ever so much for that today, Nick. Really, really insightful stuff. If you guys have enjoyed today's video, please do hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to see more from GTN, just click on the globe and subscribe to the channel.
It's been great to meet you all. If you'd like to see the Polar Factory Tour, click on the button.
And if you'd like to see more about running with power, see that by clicking just down here.